a quick intro of Alejandro before he introduces himself. Maybe it gives you some insights where to start asking questions or how the journey started. So he started swimming at 3 years old, like a lot of kids, I think, just pushed into the water and see how it goes. He realized it was his thing, that he was quite fast at it and actually enjoyed it a lot. And then I didn't make this up. It's a quote from the interview where he said he's not that good at other sports. He was maybe a bit overweight. So, it was quite cool to find swimming was his thing. Then he started to put more and more into it, joining a club, taking it more seriously. In 2008 and 2010, he was the Spanish fin swimming champion. So not like the double fins where you have it on both legs, but it's like one kind of like a big fish fin. So you're doing like a dolphin stroke. Maybe we can talk more about that as well. Yeah, competed in the national team. And then for some reasons, which I guess we'll also go on to, started looking for something else. So moving into the open water, bigger distances, other challenges, like his most recent one, the 30-kilometer swim. So we also made a movie about it, which you can watch after. We'll share the link. But yeah, that's Alejandro. Let's hand it over to him.
Thank you for the introduction. And I'm actually sharing a picture on the chat about what fin swimming looks like, just in case some people have questions, because it doesn't look like anything you have seen before. Only people that know the sport actually know what it is. And they call it the Formula One of swimming. And it might be one of the reasons why the World Aquatics, as the FINA is called right now, don't allow it in the Olympics, even though there are plenty of federations in the world, and it is a well-established sport, but they are really afraid that classical swimming, like breaststroke, butterfly, freestyle, is not gonna get so many people into it if you present this fin swimming, because it is much more beautiful. This is not subjective. It's not because I did it, but it is just because it's that way. Like there is no splashing because you don't use your arms. So when you see these races, you just see the hands like here on top of each other, and you see like people going like hand in hand like this. So it is really beautiful to watch.
What was your favorite event at the Olympics in swimming?
At the Olympics, of the ones I watched, of course it was swimming, definitely. Like unfortunately, I could not watch them live. I was just watching the videos on YouTube. 1500 freestyle men.
Okay.
Because it was a really good race. Like long races like 1500 are not usually interesting, because it's usually like a person takes the lead and they take like a 10, 15, 20 second lead, and you are like, okay, like after 800 meters you already know the results, but then you still need to watch it for 700 meters more. But in this one, the first person and the second person were very tight to each other, and both of them were ahead of the world record. So it was really interesting to watch that. Okay, both of them are actually faster than the person that did 1500 in the past. That was the fastest. And it was like, if the first swimmer gets tired or misses a turn or has a bad 50 meters, the race could just switch, and he could be second. So it was really interesting to watch until the end.
Nice. I was trying to put into perspective, like, so I'm not from a swimming background, and so 30 kilometers, like it sounds big, but on a bike you do it in an hour or an hour and a half or something like that. Like, how would you put it into okay, some people would do it in an hour and a half, some people it takes a bit longer. like how do you put that distance into perspective? Like, is it like compared to running, right? You look at the milestones as being like a marathon or something like that. Like the 30-kilometer distance in ultra swimming, like where does it stand on a scale?
Okay, well, this 30-kilometer race was a bit of a cheat race because the first 15 to 20 kilometers, the current was really strong. So we were going really, really fast, and that really helped. So it was in reality a swimming, I would say 21 or 22 kilometers in a lake where you have calm water. And how to put it in perspective? So the craziest swimming challenges that people can pick up are crossing the famous channels like the English Channel, the Northern Channel, which is between Ireland and Britain, um, Molokai Channel, which is in Hawaii. So they have these really, really long races that are really difficult because of all the conditions. It's not only a challenging swim because those ones are like 30 to 40 kilometers, but the conditions are really difficult. It's really cold. You have sea life, you have weather conditions. You need to do them without a wetsuit. So you will endure the cold, and there are people that die doing that because of hypothermia, because you are swimming in waters that are 17, 18 degrees. If you are lucky, there are people that do it in 16 and even 15-degree waters. So how to put it in perspective? I would say like it's about 60% of one of those challenges.
Okay.
Because those challenges, people complete them in about 10 to 15 hours. This one for me was 7 hours. But I was also a bit slow that I usually am because I had a heat stroke literally 4 days before the event. So I had a fever, I was feeling super weak, and only on Friday, the day before the event, I started to feel better. But on Wednesday and Thursday, I was just not feeling like it. Like it was really difficult for me to just walk around or go up and down stairs.
You didn't show that at all. So when like, and that's one of the like, so the thing that I wanted to take away, right? Like, so when we were asking you questions and the whole lead up to the race, like you were very calm, very confident, like you didn't really have a doubt that you weren't able to do it. And so it's like, yeah, to now hear that, okay, only the day before you felt like you were ready to take it on is really interesting. But yeah, so I think my question comes around like, how do you know when you were ready? So obviously you trained a lot for it. You did a lot of the preparation, like you put yourself in a good place. But at what point were you able to say like, oh, I'm ready to do this, like this is within my ability?
I would say it's the okay, it is something called proprioception, which is like how you're feeling yourself, like being able to feel your entire body. And it is something that when you're doing sports, you develop a lot because you basically know where uh, all parts of your body are located at all times. So by just using that, like how I was feeling myself, knowing my energy levels, then I was able to understand that I was okay. Like for example, on Friday, I was still not 100% in, but judging from the amount of energy I had had the previous day and thinking like, okay, today is Friday and I feel okay. Like on Friday, I could not have some 30 kilometers. I think it would have been too much. But then I thought, yeah, the energy levels are going to increase exponentially. So tomorrow I'm going to be fine. Maybe not at my 100%, but even 85% was okay to complete such a swim. And also, I think for me mentally, it really helped that I tried the water the day before.
Yeah.
We just drove to the river to one of the locations where we were going to pass by, and I wanted to test the water, to actually feel the temperature of my skin and understand if I was gonna be cold or not the following day. And the water temperature was perfect. Like you wouldn't even feel that you were going into the water. It was also pretty clean, and that really motivated me mentally to start the race on the next day.
So that would that's the short term leading up to it, but like 6 months before, had you done like a milestone, like so you've done a 10K swim before, right? You said.
Yeah, like then yeah, I have been preparing. Like, of course, you cannot just train for 30 kilometers in 1 or 2 weeks, not even in a month. You need to do a lot of planning, and I basically started training in August for a race that was in July. So I had basically one entire year of training, and I usually set different targets. Like, okay, when it comes to swimming. Um, then I decide, depending also on work and a lot of different factors, whether I'm traveling or not. Then I choose a few weeks when I'm gonna do a bit of extra swimming. So then I decide like, okay, this week is a swimming week, which means every day I'm gonna swim for 1.5 hours. 5 days only. I don't do 7. Like at some point you need to take some rest. But then it's like, okay, so it's gonna be 1.5 hours from Monday to Friday, and then I really push it and I go for it for the entire week. So it becomes like a priority for 1 week. Then the next week I can go back to doing only 1 hour because it takes a lot of time if I do 1.5 hours every day. Um, and it gets really tiring, and also I get really hungry. So it's not good for me to be swimming so much.
And that's training in the pool or also open water?
Mainly in the pool. I live in Denmark. It's really cold up here. Like only now, June, July, August, maybe September, you can go to the sea or to some lakes and swim. But I tried it in May because for one day the swimming pool was closed. They had a competition, and I was like, well, I'll go to the sea. And I put on my wetsuit, and I was okay in my body, but I didn't have neoprene socks, and my feet got extremely cold. And later it was really difficult to go back home because I was on my bike going back home. I live like 15 minutes away from the sea, and oh my god, I was not feeling my feet. At the moment I got home, I just went directly into the into the shower, and I took a really long warm shower, like 10 minutes just under the hot water.
I think that actually leads into some nice questions that we have coming in. So Papa Wu asked, for example, how far in advance do you have to enter or commit to something like that? So you said you had kind of a year's preparation, but you've also been swimming for most of your life. What kind of guidance would you give there?
Um, it depends on the swim that you want to do, and how much you have swum before. So for me, I like doing these open water races once a year. So for me, it's just basically deciding, okay, which one is going to be next. Because like before repeating one, I would like to try different ones. So I would say that maybe 1 year is not necessary, but for me personally, it helps me stay focused. Like, okay, I have this challenge, so I need to go swimming, I need to do sports, I need to keep up active. While if I don't really have a challenge, it's like, oh, why am I swimming? Why am I going now into the water if I just want to be home, just sitting? Especially here in Denmark during winter, it's cold and it's also really dark. So any extra motivation that you get, like for example, oh, I already signed up for the race, so of course I need to go swimming. It's welcome.
Whereas I was thinking there with the Ironman events, they go on sale just after this year's event. And if you don't sign up quickly, first of all, the prices go up and they can sell out. So you really have to decide and sign up a year in advance. So do you could you leave it till, like you say, if you get an injury or like the duathlon that was being planned, you know, you can say, oh, not next week, I'll do it the week after. But I've signed up for quite a few triathlons and then not made it because I got COVID the week before and you can't do anything about it. So can you decide in your head that you're doing it, but not enter it until a month or two before, or do you have to sign up well in advance?
When it comes to swimming, yeah, it is possible to leave it for last minute because it is very, very unlikely that a race is completely full. Like this race I participated in, I think they closed the list 1 month before, just because they had to do some logistics with kayakers. So every swimmer had a kayaker, and then you need to find a kayaker for that person. And then it was good to have a month to arrange all that. But I know races that you can sign up even the day before, and they are not really short races. There is one here in Denmark that is 11 kilometers. And you can easily sign up the day before. So if you are okay, like you can even sign up this depending on the weather. So you are like, oh, it's gonna be sunny and it's gonna be nice weather, not windy. Sure, I will go, and then you sign up and just go there.
Okay. Well, that was the other question. So they provide the kayakers. You don't have to convince one of your friends to sit in a kayak for 5 hours as well.
Yeah, but it was more expensive.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to pay extra to get a kayaker, but if you are able to convince someone, I actually told my fiance, I was like, "Do you want to kayak for, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours down the River Ebro?" And he was like, "No, definitely not." I was like, "Yeah, I could imagine that. It's okay."
And is it the same kayaker the whole time, or do they swap
Yes.
over?
No,
Oh,
it was the
wow.
same kayaker the whole time.
Okay. And at the beginning, when that current's strong, it must be difficult for them to stay back with you rather than get carried off.
They just didn't have to do anything. Yeah, they were just floating away.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just holding the paddles like this, and I was like, "Oh, look at you." Yeah, at some point, like I think after 2 or 3 hours, I was like, "By the way, when do we switch?" And he was looking at me like, "What? But we don't switch." And me like, "We don't switch? I have to swim all this? I thought we were switching."
It's amazing to see. Maybe in the movie you can see it, but it's really amazing to see the current and the impact that had, because we filmed Alejandro jumping into the water and I literally blinked and I was like, where has he gone? Like, he was already completely out of sight. Like, they moved so fast. I actually have a question about just going off onto the kayakers. What's the toilet situation?
The what? The
The toilet situation.
eh, I mean, I was in a river. Number one, I didn't have to do anything.
No, it's just interesting because they're stuck there for 7 hours, right? And the swimmers, it's fine, but
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't really need to go for number two when I'm doing these kind of events. So I didn't have that problem. But they said something about being able to stop, get off the water, and just do it on the side of the river. But I don't know. It's something I was not asking people around. Like, so did you have to do that thing?
yeah.
There was one place, I remember that they said there is one place where it is not recommended to stop because it was the island of bulls.
Yeah.
And then they showed a picture with a lot of bulls and they were like, do not go there. Like, don't stop there.
Yeah,
All of the places are welcome.
not there. Papa Wu is asking, do you wear lenses for swimming or do you swim blind like Alex?
Like contact lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't wear them. But I don't have, like my eyesight is quite okay. Yeah. So I usually use my glasses only when I'm sitting on the computer or when I'm reading, when I'm driving. But most of the time I'm without glasses.
Mm-hmm.
So not completely blind. Like you could still have a marker in the distance and clearly see it and aim for it.
Yeah. But I have heard that there are Swimming goggles that you can graduate.
I've heard it said about some Ironman events that some people don't do the full swim, and they blame the fact that they can't see the buoys and they can't see the markers. But I've never experienced that myself.
Just to give some context, Alex and Papa Wu recently did a 70.3 Ironman race, and Alex's swim was not the same distance as Papa Wu's swim. And yeah, it's because Alex is blind as a bat and, well, didn't have his goggles on, or the course was also wrong. We'll never know.
It's a topic for another day. Let's move on.
Move on.
No, but definitely, like I can imagine, because sometimes I have tried to swim without goggles, and oh my god, it's terrible, because you could be faster, and you could do it better, but then you're just like having water in your eyes all the time, and it's not comfortable at all.
We have a question from Derva about nutrition. Do you have to be careful about what you eat the day before or the morning of? And do you eat or fuel up whilst you're on the swim?
Not extremely careful, to be honest. Like, I care about my nutrition, but I care also on a yearly basis. So I'm just like not on a constant diet, but I'm caring about how much fat and protein and carbs I'm taking. And the day before, I don't think so much about it. I just make sure that, at least personally for me, I take plenty of protein. But I know other people prefer taking a lot of carbs. But I burn out the carbs really fast, so I prefer taking protein. And fuel up during the swim. The kayaker had a bag with some of these gels, also some cereal bars, some water with electrolytes. And whenever I needed something, I would just stop him, tell it to him, and then he was actually feeding me with a stick, because they are not supposed to touch you. So then they put everything on a stick, and then they handed it this way. And then you put it back on the stick, and they took it back to the kayak. But in other races where I have participated, there were feeding stations, like feeding stops, and then they would have a wide choice of foods, fruits. There was actually one that it was an interesting choice. It was in the Canary Islands, and they grow pineapple. And just to promote the pineapples of the island, they were giving you pineapples. So just imagine, like, you're swimming in the sea, your mouth has been full of salty water for like 2 or 3 hours, and then they give you pieces of pineapple, and you are like, no, like, leave it for later. I prefer bananas right now, or something like watermelon or melon, something sweet. And they were like, but these are local pineapples. And me like, no. Give me something sweet.
You said some of the races have feeding stations. Are they? I'm struggling to picture that. Do you get out of the water, or are they floating feeding stations? How does that work?
I have seen both.
Oh,
yeah. In this one in the Canary Islands, it was just floating on the water. So there was a boat. You would just go there, and then they were giving you whatever you needed, like water. In that case, I was drinking much more water because I was in the sea, so I was feeling a bit more dehydrated. At least in my mouth. They also had electrolytes, bananas, pineapples, and also some cereal bars. But I have seen also the races where you can actually get out of the water. Then that really depends. Like, if you are doing, for example, if you are doing one of these big crossings, like the English Channel, they need to do it like they did in this Ultra Ebre. They need to feed you with a stick. You cannot touch the kayak, you cannot touch the boat, and you cannot get out of the water. The moment you get out of the water, you are disqualified.
But the channel crossing, there's nowhere to get out of the water, right?
Yeah, but like I mean, technically you could get out and go onto the boat and just
Yeah,
take a rest,
yeah,
but it is not allowed. You cannot touch the swimmer. Like
yeah,
they feed you with a stick.
yeah.
There was also a funny thing because Papa Wu said potentially also swimming the channel. I remember when we were having a conversation with you after your swim, Alejandro, you mentioned something about that crossing, and if you don't do it with a wetsuit, that it doesn't count.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it is exactly like that. Like for that one, I think what I would have to train the most if I ever want to do the English channel, which is always an idea. It's like, yeah, at some point I will run out of open water races, so it will be only these big crossings. But I would have to train a lot for adapting myself to cold water because that's gonna be like 12 hours or 14 in 17, 18 degrees. Uh, that that's really cool. Like I'm not ready for that right now. I suffer a lot in waters that are colder than 20 degrees.
So you can still do it with a wetsuit, but it's like not official then, right?
I think they do not take you. There is such a long waiting list that they only take people that are gonna complete
Do
it
it
properly.
officially.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you need to sign up. Like you sign up now, and they may call you in 2 or 3 years, and you need to pay like a yearly fee of 500 euros or pounds to show that you are still willing to do it, and then they call you the year that you're going to do it, but they don't tell you when you're going to do it because everything depends on the weather conditions. At least that is the information I know from what I have been reading. But yeah, it is like they have so many people and such a long waiting list that they take only people that they know for sure are going to complete it. So you need to have done things like these big open water challenges. I think it is mandatory to have done at least a 5 hour swim in cold water without a wetsuit, so that they also know that you are prepared for the water temperature. And only then, when you have fulfilled a lot of requirements, they consider taking you. So I think they would just say like, no, if you're gonna do it in a neoprene, and if it is not gonna count, then I prefer not taking you because I have, I don't know, 20 swimmers or 30 swimmers to choose from only this year.
Yeah. And do they go in like groups then? Or is it like one person, like it's a list and they go one person at a time?
They go one person at a time. Each person has their own. Because in this case, when you do the channel crossing, you will have not only your own kayaker, but your own boat. Like there is an entire boat with a referee that needs to go there all the time, making sure that you are not having any contact with the people, you're not getting out of the water. And then you have the kayaker because you cannot be swimming all the time next to a boat. And then you have a kayaker a bit closer. And in that situation, you have several kayakers. Like there is one kayak, but there are several people that are taking relays because there is not one person that is doing whole 33 kilometers on their own.
I like the question from Rachel about what motivated you to do such an extreme distance. Do you generally push yourself to the limit or just in swimming?
Good questions. So what motivated me was that this was just like the natural progression of what I had been doing before. So I wanted to do a distance that was a bit bigger, a bit longer. So it felt like a good distance. Like it sounds like a lot, these 30 kilometers, but in reality it was like 21 or 22. So not so different from 17.5 like you're gonna do. And pushing myself to the limit in general, yeah, I do it in all the areas of my life. because like this basically teaches me that, or this has taught me that with good training, I think that everyone can do this. You just need to train a lot and prepare for it, and have it as a priority in some weeks of the year when you feel a bit more demotivated, but with some planning and training, it is possible to do it. So I do the same in other areas of my life, like just with good planning, I think I will be able to do it.
And I have kind of two questions leading on from that. What, I mean, Rachel has her race very soon. What kind of tips would you say she wanted to get into a positive mindset from this talk? What kind of tips or advice could you give to her, knowing that her race is upcoming?
So to be ready physically, I would recommend you, Rachel, to do the following. Like you're still long away from the race, so you can still do a little bit of extra training. Try this week to do 8 kilometers, or like do 2 hours, whether outside in open water or in a swimming pool, and eat in between. So do 1 hour, eat, and 1 more hour, and see how you feel like. Because basically the rest of the race is gonna be that way. Like there is usually a feeding station every hour or hour and a half. If you're able to swim 1 hour, eat a little bit, and then continue swimming, you're gonna feel fine during the race. And I mean, regarding motivation, just think that you're not the only one that is doing it. There are also more people. And like, remember to smile, you pay for it, so enjoy it.
I have a question about like, so during the swim, obviously it's a long swim, right? 6 hours, 7 hours. What do you think about? Like, are you always thinking about like, so swimming is technique heavy, right? Are you always thinking about like how you're going in the water and like all proper arm movements, like proper stroke rate, that kind of thing, or where does your mind go?
That's a good question. No, I'm not always thinking about the technique. I don't know. I'm thinking about all sorts of random things. Because that's usually what I do when I swim. Like once or twice a week, I have long swims, like maybe 1 hour nonstop. So that prepares me for what I'm gonna do in one of these races. And yeah, sometimes I need to think about the technique, like making sure that I'm doing it properly. But sometimes it's about not even thinking about the technique. Like for example, for the last hour of the race, my shoulder, especially the right shoulder, was hurting a lot. And I know I was not doing the technique properly. So I was like, okay, do not focus so much on the pain, just focus on finishing. Like you are really close by, so just keep on swimming. And then, I don't know, there have been times, like I remember when I used to be a high school student, I would use my swimming time to review the things I had been learning. Or just thinking about other things. There have been other times that I just had ideas about something to write later on. And then I just kept on thinking about that.
There's a topic that we haven't touched on, which leads into the next kind of thing, which might help a few people here, is that you actually have a fear of deep water, which for me is crazy that you do this and that you have this active fear, which I think a lot of people do. But it kind of leads me onto this conversation of a lot of people have this fear of open water and of swimming in general. What kind of tips or advice could you give to help get over that, to help kind of get your first few swims in?
Okay, my advice, because that's a really good question. My main advice is don't do it alone. Like this fear at least for me, it happens because I'm alone. Like if I go into the open water in the sea and then I don't see the bottom, and it's really scary because it's like, what could be there? Like if I do it alone, I need much more mental power. So the first thing would be like, do it with other people. The moment I'm swimming next to another person, I feel completely fine. It's quite okay. It's like, okay, I know I'm not alone. I know someone can assist me. And they actually say that you shouldn't do open water trainings. I mean, if you're in a lake, yeah, sure, if it's a small lake, but you shouldn't do this thing into like, oh, I venture into open water completely alone. You shouldn't do that. You should always go with a person. But if you are not able to go with someone, then for me it really helps me think about what are the dangers out here. And so, for example, I'm swimming in the middle of the sea. I mean, not in the middle, but like far off the coast. And I don't see the bottom because maybe it's like 50 meters down there. And it sounds really scary. It's like, I cannot touch the bottom. And then you are like, yeah, but then I start thinking rationally, like, yeah, but even if the bottom was 20 meters deep, I wouldn't be able to reach it. That's really deep. So I would have problems with adjusting my ears and so on. Um, then the fact that I don't see the bottom doesn't mean that there is something scary out there. What is the scariest thing that is right now, right here in the open sea? A jellyfish? But you're gonna see it from afar, like the visibility is good. So then what is the other fear? Then I actually calculate like, okay, how far am I from the coast? And then it's like, okay, I'm maybe 200 meters off the coast. And it's like, yeah, how long does it take me to do 200 meters when I'm in the swimming pool? 3 minutes. How long is it gonna take me here? Maybe 3.5, 4 minutes. In 4 minutes, I can be safe on land. So no problem, just continue swimming.
I also found that interesting. I remember when I was speaking to you before, with the lake, you mentioned when you started out, rather than going like from point A to point B, you would actually just swim along by the coast so that you knew, as you just said, you were close enough to get in, you could still see the bottom.
Mhm.
And that gave you a lot more like mind and peace and reassurance, right?
Yeah, exactly. But sometimes when you're in the sea, even 100 meters off the coast, it's already really deep because it depends on where you're swimming. There are some places in Italy or Spain that you have a really nice sandy beach for many kilometers, and then it's completely fine because you can be swimming and then you see that maybe the bottom is 2 meters down there. But sometimes it goes deep like a cliff and then you don't see the bottom. But yeah, for me, it really gives me peace of mind to think that, okay, I'm not far from the coast, 100, 200 meters. That's less than 5 minutes and I could be safe. So, all good, at least for me.
Does anyone want to kind of share last questions, thoughts? Yeah, Dervla, go ahead.
Alejandro, I'd like to know after your swim, do you not have like neck cramps or headaches or earaches? I mean, I swim for like 40 minutes and for like hours afterwards, my ears are in pain. After doing it for 7 hours, what are the consequences that you may suffer?
That's a good question. Actually, not so many consequences. If not, I wouldn't do so many kilometers. But for example, I don't have any problems with my ears. The water comes off really easily, and I don't know. I'm really used to it, and I don't get a headache after this really long swim. It was, of course, the arms. The arms were extremely, extremely tired. I had pain on both shoulders already at the end. I also had pain on the elbows, pain on the wrists. There was like a general source of pain. Uh, so, of course, what I wanted to do was just to sit down and rest and not use my arms. But in case you have those problems with the ears, you can try using different earplugs. because that could actually help, like in case your ears are a bit more sensitive to water.
Despite the pain that he mentioned feeling after the race, he did say he was ready to go again the next week.
The next week, like I definitely needed one entire week to recover.
Doesn't seem like a lot for the effort that went in.
Yeah, no, but to be honest, I spent one entire month without swimming. I was like, okay, that was enough. And that has been the longest time I have been without swimming since December 2021.
Okay. Maybe that's a good. You're swimming again now, right? You've just started.
Yeah.
And what's coming up? So what's next year? What's the big goal?
It is not such a big goal. It's only 15 kilometers. But it is in a really beautiful place that I wanted to do. And what is interesting about this race is that it's 3 races, one each year. So first year is 2015, next year is 2019, and next year is first year is 15 kilometers, then it's 19 kilometers, and then 21 kilometers, and then they just keep on repeating it. So I think it must be really nice to have this as a 3-year challenge.
All in the same place, or?
Yeah, they are all in the same place, but then you swim around different islands.
Okay.
And
Nice.
it's a natural park that we have in northwestern Spain, in Galicia. And I think it's going to be wonderful to go there and discover the park from the sea, swimming around and being with other people. And I also thought about possibly, like at least the 15-kilometer race, trying without a wetsuit.
Okay.
So it is not going to be so difficult distance-wise. I have done something like that in the past, but it is going to be difficult to be ready for swimming, I don't know, 4 hours in 20 Celsius water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have a question from Rachel. Were there any challenging moments for you mentally during the 7-hour swim? I just want to stop, for example. How did you deal with it?
Yeah, there were, of course, challenging moments, like especially the last hour, when my shoulder was hurting so much. And I was like, I want to stop, like not to quit, but I was like, I want to stop and just take a rest. But then I also thought, like, if I stop now, I will finish later. So just keep on going. And I started to use more my legs than my arms. So that gave me a little bit of rest for all the pain that I was suffering. And then it was also like, because when they explained the race, they started to talk about all the points that we were going to go through. And I had just crossed some of the last bridges, so I knew the itinerary. And then I was thinking, like, oh my God, like I'm almost there. So I'll just keep on going. Like, yeah, it was painful. I wanted to stop, like at least to take a break, but that would have meant finishing later, and also like cooling down and then restarting would have been even more painful. So I just swam with my legs a bit more.
Well, that was also interesting to see that people were stopping, right? And I noticed at some point, especially when the current slowed down, there was a lot of people suddenly on their back, just resting for like a few minutes before they carried on. So I guess there's always that option. Of course, you don't want to do it too much so you don't cool down, as you say. But yeah, there's always the option that you can just stop for a few minutes, like reevaluate, give yourself that pep talk, and then carry on going.
Yeah, exactly. And you also have the kayaker that is giving you not only food but also moral support. So like I think in the last hour, I may have stopped a couple of times for fueling, but I think it was not because I was hungry. It was more like, okay, I need to put down my arms for like maybe 2 minutes and drink some water. So then that was the excuse for me to stop. Like, okay, talk to the kayaker, get some water, and then keep on going.
Yeah, I really saw at the end, the last, I don't know, 500 meters, 300 meters, the amount of pep talks from the kayakers to the swimmers. And I literally saw one guy who was like, "Where's the end?" And she was pointing and pointing. He was like, "No, I can't do it." And as Papa Wu was just doing, she was like, "Yes, you can. Like, go to the end, you can do it." So I think that's really important. Rachel, I don't know how it works for the race you're doing, but if you have people around you, I think definitely like lap up that motivation and take it and help each other, right? Because those few words can take you a long way.
Yeah.
We had a question from Papa Wu about, if you imagine you had qualified for the Olympics, the 10-kilometer sprint for you, would you have swam in the Seine? Would you have swam in the river?
Yeah, like, what can you do? Imagine that you have been preparing for that moment for years and years of training. Yeah, I would have done it. Because like those 10 kilometers are usually 2 hours. You are not going to start feeling bad immediately, but for sure you're going to feel bad after swimming. If there is a lot of E. coli or Bacillococcus, yeah, you're going to feel that, definitely. There is going to be a lot of puking and diarrhea. But at the same time, you have been training for, who knows, like maybe 8 years to get to that moment. You are not going to say no just because the water is a little bit more polluted.
True. All right, Alex, do you want to start going into the outro?
Yeah.
Last bit? And if there are still any kind of last questions or whatever, you can still keep on asking them.
Can you bring up the slides?
Of course I can.
I mean, most of you have seen this already.
Yeah. If there's anyone who can't stay, feel free to leave. But Rachel, maybe this is just of interest for you.
Yeah, so firstly, thank you. Thank you for coming. That was our first edition of Woo Talks. We hoped you liked it. Feedback, comments, you know where to find us. We plan on doing, like, we have 3 more sessions lined up for now. But yeah, hopefully this is a format that we keep doing. So yeah, we're happy to hear what you think, how you liked it, where we can improve, or if you know people who would want to join or even be the guest speaker, like send them our way. Yeah, woo-woo, we believe that anyone can. We help them through things like Club Day. That's just where we all go out together, do the sport that we love from all of the various locations that we're based in. Just try to bring everyone together a little bit. We also have specific training days. Yeah, we're trying to get better, faster, or go further distances. So we're also learning together along the way and trying these different things. What you get for being a part of Club Woo, access to inspirational people and experts like we've just had with Alejandro. Yeah, join our club, join our groups to ask questions, get advice, share your journey along the way. Accountability and motivation. So we set these goals, and we found that this accountability, or like these groups, help you stay on track towards those goals as well, stay consistent. We'll do recurring check-in calls as well, again keeping you on track, and training plans and advice as well. To end, he didn't start with a 30-kilometer swim. He started way smaller. So find your starting point. We'll help you get there.
Yeah, actually, just I started with a 3-kilometer race. That was the first open water challenge that I did in classical swimming in 2019. So that's a big increase in a few years.
Yeah.
Everyone starts somewhere. Cool. Thank you very much. If there are, as I said, we'll still be here. So if you do have any questions, if you want to speak anymore, feel free. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming. And you can also unmute, you can chat, you can leave, you can do whatever you want.
If not, we'll see you at the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining and for inviting me, and see you the next time.
Yeah. Well done, Woo team. Thanks, Alejandro. Good luck, Rachel.